Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. This is Teacher Yan, your friendly J1 teacher here in South Carolina. For those of you new here, I am from the Philippines. I'm a high school English teacher and I've been in the J1 program since 2021. So I've been making videos about my journey and things that I believe can help teachers who are thinking about joining the program and teachers who have been hired. So if you know anyone and if you are that person, please keep on watching. And if you haven't subscribed to join our growing family, please do so by clicking that subscribe button and by sharing and liking this video. I am going to share some don'ts in the classroom. I believe that it would be very helpful for aspiring teachers to know these things. And I wish I knew these things when I was new in teaching here in the United States. So without further ado, let's begin. Don't argue with your students, especially about your rules. So they will try to argue with you, to say they didn't break it, they didn't do anything, that your rule is unfair, anything to just get themselves off the hook. But do not argue with them. Don't bite into it. If they did break the rule, write them up. If they did a certain thing that you think deserves a warning, warn them. But always be firm and be consistent with the implementation of the class rules and the school rules. Never argue with them. If they keep blabbing, just keep your peace, keep your calm, and let them be. So remember, don't argue with your students. It's not going anywhere, and you are on the losing end, not them. Don't let misbehavior slide. So this connects to the first don't argue. So arguments will lessen if your students see that you are consistent with your rules. That one rule applies to everybody, and that if you said after the warning you're going to get written up, make sure you do it. Because once they see you letting certain misbehavior slide, that's where arguments start. So make sure that you don't let any misbehavior or anything that goes against your rules slide. Again, be firm, be consistent. So still talking about classroom management, if you need to hush the students, don't use the term shut up. So that's a big no-no. You can use the terms hush, please be quiet, everybody settle down, but never use the term shut up. It's considered very rude, and if it comes from us teachers, it might be considered as not even profanity, but it's not a proper term to use. Mind you, they will try. They will try to make you say it. Like when everybody's loud, if the room is so loud, one or two students will be like, Miss A, tell them to shut up. Shut them up. Tell them to shut up. Just raise your voice and say shut up. They will tell you to do that because, I don't know, they're kids. Never use the term shut up to hush or quiet down your class. Don't use the term sexy, hot, or other sexually insinuating terms when talking to your student. Like for example, especially if you're a male teacher and you're talking to a female student, but either way, just don't use sexually insinuating terms like sexy or hot. Like for example, you see that your student comes in with a really nice outfit. Don't ever say, you look sexy today, because that can be taken as sexual abuse or that you're trying to hit on your student. So don't use those terms. Just say, you look good today. I like your outfit. That suits you. Use politically correct terms. Still in that area, don't stay in your classroom alone with a student. Always make sure that your door is open. If such circumstance is unavoidable, make sure that your door is wide open and that you and your students stay right by the door, like where everybody can see you easily. But if you have a choice, do not put yourself into that situation. Do not stay alone in your classroom with a student. It doesn't matter if the student is a female and you're a female teacher, or the student is a male and you're a male teacher. Just avoid if you can. Don't be too touchy with your students. I know some of us, like especially in the Philippines, like, we like tapping our students on their shoulder if they did a good job, or like hugging them, or like holding them by the arm to like play with them or get their affection or trust. Try not to do that. Don't be too touchy with your students, especially at the beginning, especially when you're not familiar with your students yet and they're not familiar with you yet. So you're still testing waters. Don't be too touchy with them. And also be very observant of the culture of your school and of the culture of the district, but specifically your school. Because, for example, my school right now, where I am, students, because we're a small school, we're a charter school, so most students know the teachers ever since kindergarten. So they have a very affectionate culture, like a very family culture. So I noticed that it's like I've seen more teachers, more of my co-teachers like hug, tap. So then I started to easily ease into it, but I also make sure that I know the student, because some students don't like being touched. So again, to be safe, just don't be too touchy with your students. And it goes the other way. Don't let your students become too touchy with you. These are minors. We are adults. These are kids under our care. And even if you say, I didn't do anything, he was the one who hugged me, she was the one who touched me, he was the one who did this to me, but you're the adult. You are in control and you could have prevented that situation. So always put your limitation. I have one co-teacher who has like around her teacher table, she has like a circle, like this is my personal space. You cannot step into my personal space. So you can stand up to that point, nothing closer. So maybe you can try to do that, especially, I guess this is like trickier when you're a middle school or high school teacher, but because there's already malice, the hormones of these kids are everywhere, and so just be careful, always set your boundaries. So don't be too touchy with your students, and don't allow your students to be too touchy with you, especially in high school, Don't post photos of your students on social media. If you have to, cover their faces, because this is against FERPA. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So under FERPA, anything that gives out the identity of a student should not be made public without the parents' permission. So don't just post. I know, we get excited. Oh my gosh, I did this. I had a really good day. I had a really fun activity. Make sure that you cover the faces of your students unless you have had the parents' permission and the school's permission to do it. But I mean, to be on the safe side, just cover the faces, especially if they're minors and even if they're not. Because if you're handling seniors, some of them are already adults. But just to be on the safe side, cover their faces and be very discreet about information you share on your students. Don't use your personal email or phone number when reaching out to your parents or guardians. So you will always have an official school email. Make sure that you use that for any communication between you and other stakeholders. So anything that has to do with the student, that has to do with the school, that has to do with grades, performance, behavior, activities, make sure that you use your school email, not your personal email. And when you're trying to reach a parent or a guardian to give them an update of the student's behavior, make sure that you use your school's official platform. Usually, schools have platforms to reach out to students, or I mean to their parents. So, like for example, you have Parent Square. I think some have like this Remind app or thingy from the school and the district. So communicate, send messages, and do phone calls through that platform and not your personal number. Why? Because you don't really know. There are a lot of things that can happen, and you don't really want parents to have your personal number. And a student can also get hold of your number if you do that. And the next thing you know, your number is everywhere. So use your school email and your school platform in communicating with your parents or guardians. This is something that I learned on my first year, like I think on my first week. Don't use the term family name. This term can be a touchy-feely term for our students because the concept of family here can be very complicated. Some of them even feel like they don't have a family. So when you ask them what's your family name, they're like, what? And they don't even know what it is. So the right term to use is what is your last name. Speaking of terms, don't use black to refer to your African American students. Racism is a very sensitive topic. So we are from the outside coming in. We are not part of naturally of their culture. We're not part of their history. Technically, we are not one of them because we are foreign, we are international teachers. So to use the term black or the N word, never. Some of your students will play with you and tell you it's okay. Call them the N word. No. Do not use the N word to talk to your students. Do not use the N word when talking with them, when referring to them. African American is a politically correct term to use when describing their race, not black and not white. So it's usually Caucasian, Native American, African American, Hispanic, Asian. So those are the politically correct terms. Don't use color to refer to your students. And last one, this is something that I learned, and I think I've already shared this in my previous video, but I remind myself this every single day. Don't take what your students say personally, whether it's positive or negative. Like when they say, "Oh, I love you, Miss A," they mean it, but they say it to every teacher they like. And that "I love you, Miss A" can easily flip to "I hate you" when you don't give them what they want. They're kids, they're students. So don't take anything they say personally. If they act out, lash out on you, just remember that it's not you per se, but most of the students have a lot going on in their personal lives. And since they spend most time with us teachers during the day on weekdays, we become an easy target of whatever emotional, psychological, any aspect that they're struggling with. So don't take it personally. But it doesn't mean that you're going to brush off every single remark that they give. Again, we go back to our first don't. Don't argue with your students, but be consistent with your rules. If you said no profanity and they started cursing or cussing at you, then although they're going through something, you have to talk to them that I understand when everything's calm, but you broke the rule. And I already warned you before and you still did it. So just be consistent, but don't take what they say personally, or else you're going to be burnt out in your first month and you're going to feel like there's no hope and that you're like the worst teacher and you don't know how to teach and these kids don't respect you, don't love you, they hate you. No, just be who you are and who you need to be at that moment, and who you are is their teacher. You are qualified to teach them. You are qualified and chosen to be in charge of that classroom in that particular block for that particular subject. Respect them, and eventually they will see that and they will reciprocate the energy that you give out. So that's that. I hope those simple tips, the don'ts, help you out in your journey as a teacher here in the United States. It might look different in different states and in different schools, but these are just based off my personal experience and the experience of my friends. So take it with a grain of salt. Still be observant, do your own observation, and do your own growth, and do your own notes on what you think you should do and should not do in your classroom. You're in charge, you're the captain of your ship, and enjoy. At the end of the day, make sure that you enjoy the experience. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, this is Teacher Yan, and I hope you click that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet and you reached the end of this video. And I'll see you on my next one. Bye-bye.